leftovers from Ed Fowl. Some of you guys know who he was. He taught me how to do these, and he could really go thin on them. There's some, I've got an example here of something not to do, and we'll get to that. But the very first thing you want to do with a bird mouth bowl is you choose your stock. And this, you can do it with a round bowl. You can do it with a round log. But if you get one that is a little bit oblong like that, oval shape, it will turn out to be, and I know you think, well, yeah, but you're going to turn it all around. Well, not exactly, because if you look at that, there is a difference in the width here that you don't lose when you turn it round, kind of round, but it turns out to be oval. So that gives it a little bit of pizzazz. And one like that would turn out okay, because you're gonna turn off most of that, but not all of it. Even that will give you a little bit of a lift on the beak. So that's the way we started off. So you start off with your bird mouth piece, and I think this is, what did I say, crepe myrtle? Yeah, I think it's crepe myrtle. I'm not positive. Whatever it is, it's that. So, but there you go, guys, wherever they are. First thing you want to do is you look at it and figure out where the throat is going to be. So on this one, throat's going to be right down through here. So where is the peak of the beak going to be? Well, these are going to be your peaks right here. So you want that to be the tallest part of it, so that you end up with the there on that side. You can see it like so. In fact, I even drew a picture of it right there. I didn't even remember that I'd drawn that. Okay. First thing you do is, of course, mount it on the lathe with one of those little doodads. Whoop, that's loose. Enter into your stock and pound away, but don't do it while you're on the lathe, because that would really make Joe upset, because I did that one time. Joe didn't like me beating on the bearings of the lathe, and he's right. Now, when you put this on here, what you want to do is you want to line this up. This right here, if you don't line that up, your bird's going to have an overbite or an underbite. See what I'm saying? That lines up perpendicular to your headstock. Get her back in there. That it? If I do something crazy, you guys tell me that have one of these. Yeah, we're there. We're there.
So you don't necessarily put it in the center on the back.
What right? Yeah, if it's not centered on the back, that doesn't matter. You're right, Ron. Good to point that out. What you want is this to be as perpendicular to the headstock as possible. Looks like I've missed it a little bit. In fact, let's go over just a hair. Yeah, that's pretty good. That's pretty good. Get it in there close where you're comfortable. Kind of square it up. Now, in order to line this up, I drew my throat. I drew the line parallel with my throat, and that was just to help me line this up, because I actually took a square and put it across here and got my 90 degrees to that, so that this is in line with the ways, and that's the beak is, the 2 points of the beak are going to be 90 degrees. All right, here we go. That's a spindle gouge. One of my tools of choice is to do a cut like this is to use a 1/2 inch bowl gouge. I brought a bunch of gouges. I don't know if I have enough gouges or not. Might have to get out the sharpening station. That'd be awful, wouldn't it? When you're getting close to your bird beak, you don't want to run off the end that way, because you're trying to maintain the bark. If you want to take the bark off afterwards, that's okay too. But you don't want to do any scraping cut there, and you don't want to run off the edge right there and knock the bark off. On this one, I got it all the way down, and on the inside, I'd already turned it. It was looking good. I'd hollowed it out some, and there was a ridge right here. And I thought, I'll just do a little light scrape, and there went the bark. Just knocked it right off. So. Well, this one's going to be nasty. It's not being nice. But we can't help that.
Is that dry wood or what?
It's dry. It was waxed. Any of you use wax to seal the end? What happens if you don't get all the wax off when you start turning? Never had any problem with that? We were up at Concord, and the guy started turning, and he didn't take the wax off the ends, and before you know it, the floor, he could hardly stand up because that wax just permeates in the chips and everything. It's dangerous. So they told us not to do that. Okay, so you got your round cylinder now, and now you want to choose. Now you want to choose where you want the outside of the throat to be, and that's, I mean, what is it like? That one's about half. What is it? 2/3? Is that the golden mean? The 2/3. So that one's about 2/3 of this and about 1/3 of the beak. So it's just a matter of your taste. Okay, so there's two things that we have to do now before we go any farther. And one is, well, first of all, we want to establish the center. Second thing you want to do is don't forget to put a tenon on it, because when you turn this thing loose, you got to grab it somehow or other to go in and hollow and finish out your beak. So I'm going to just kind of inadvertently, let's go about there, because we're going to end up with a, yeah, we'll go about there. Okay, so we'll work to that point. That's a spindle gouge. And that's a Thompson bowl gouge. Yep. All right, so we got us a nice little tenon on there. one thing I didn't do was bring something to measure that with, but I bet you, yeah, it looks like it's going to be all right. Man, that shaving's coming off.
Was that because the tool was dull?
No, it's even with it, even this fresh sharp one, it was hot, hot, hot. Hard, it's hard, hard stuff. So I'm not going to work on that a whole lot because you get the idea of what we got here, right? So now what we're going to do is, see, we still got a little bit. I'm not going to try to take that out though, because if I do, it's just going to, it's going to hurt us later. So I'm going from here down, here down, here down until we get it worked down to where we've got the neck where we want it. So 3/8 detail guide. So. And attacking it where I don't knock off the bark. Round the head out a little bit more. John, remember the discussion we had about the guy that said you have to do it a certain way and lift up your heel? It actually happens, even if you're not aware of it. I was being a little bit critical of a guy that was a demonstrator, and he said, when you get to there, you got to lift up your heel. Well, you do that automatically. I didn't realize it. But. Just trying to get one nice little final cut there just to show off, and I'm not getting there very well. All right, there we are. We'll leave that one with that. All right, so now then, let's just turn it around because I can do the sanding at home. And so now we turned it around and we want to use a nice sharp, man, I hate that I don't have my 1/2 inch. Anyhow, here's that little diamond horn will do this. Because when we go in on this one, it's the same idea as the other end of it when I said you'd have to be careful about entering because you don't, wait a minute, I got that way too high, because you don't want to knock this bark off. So the way I do this is when I start in the middle just to get my confidence up, because when you get out to the edge, that's when it gets to be fun. And you want to remember, this part of the gouge is your, what do you call it? Bevel, yeah. So what you want to do is you want your bevel to go right in to be parallel with the outside of the beak. See? You want the bevel parallel with the outside of the beak. Wait a minute, excuse me. Parallel with the outside of the beak to get your wall thickness. So I start in the middle and kind of work out to kind of get the feel of it and get myself worked back up to it. Yeah. Till I get real close to the end. There's a little trick, by the way, that somebody showed me. Probably see it on YouTube or anywhere else, but you can actually drill with a spindle gouge. You can drill right into the center of it with a That's on your tool rest, closed, and you push it in. Let's see. Boy, it gets hot. Yeah, we're going to do the forstner bit in a minute. Yeah. Yeah. Shoo-wee. I hadn't really thought of it before, but we could actually use a Forstner bit in this part of it. I don't like that idea because I want to focus on this and I want to keep that solid all the way. I don't want to really be messing with it too much. I am high, aren't I? I have one of those rings you put on there. I love that. So that your tool rest is always on center. Don't know how much more I want to toy with that. But you see, if you come in here, if you try to scrape this, that's what I did on that one that I showed you. If you try to scrape this, it's an interrupted cut, and you're ready for disaster. So better to go in that way. Oh, I think that's about as narrow as we're going to make old Beak. We can go a little bit more now than that. I'm down. Now I'm down past the air. Got off the double there. I don't want to do much with pull cuts here because I'll pull it out of the chuck. It's just tempting to do when you get that little dimple in there. All right. Now, last step. Tony, did you say something about using a Forstner bit? You did. Can you believe I'm going to use a Forstner bit? Can you believe that I acquiesced to use a Forstner bit? There are no wrongs. Somebody told you that this morning, right? No wrong way to do it. It ain't cheating. There's no cheating. The thing is, we were talking this morning, you can start with 40 grit sandpaper and you can work your way up, right? But the thing is it's to me, making all the shortcuts is if you want to do something, if you want to produce something. But if you want to enjoy turning, I was told every stroke means something because you can learn every stroke, even though you're way away from the finished product. Every time you take a stroke, you learn something through that stroke. If nothing else, muscle memory. So I enjoy the traditional tools. And I started out just wanting to do something, man. I just wanted to make something and take it in and say, honey, this is what we spend our money for. The other thing you don't want to do is run it in there and get it jammed in the chips, especially if you're dealing with something that's not totally dry. It will seize up and eat your Forstner bit. Usually I'll take and put a piece of tape on it. Take your how to do that. There we go. Take that and go to the bottom of it and see where you're going to have to be, and put a piece of tape right there at the outer edge of your beak, and then you know how deep you're going to be going. So that one's going to take a lot of yet doing. I think you've seen what the process is, and that was the purpose. And any questions? Yeah. The Proxon, I'll put it back over here. The Proxon is a great tool to use to clean off the bottom, but you can fix you up a jig to go in here and put a jig in your chuck, like a jam chuck, some kind of jam chuck to go in there to touch the bottom of the bowl. And then I still have my point in the bottom, so I would line that up and with the tailstock and turn it down just as small as you can, and then once you get it small, you can sand it off or whatever. A few years ago, Rick Erickson, who is a very bad influence, he has a Fordham tool and he's had it for years, and he always tell me, man, this Fordham tool, this, that. Well, they're very expensive, but I bought one, and I'm telling you, I wouldn't sell it for twice what I paid for it, because I just have to go around and buy another one. It's really fantastic tool. The Fordham tool is, you can get some bits that are really aggressive, but that's one way to finish off the bottom. So yeah, you can just go set it on a belt sander. I don't like doing that because I always somehow or other gets away from me. You can do the bandsaw. That's right, and that's not a bad way to do it. Yeah. What else? Anything else? Anybody else? Any more questions? Yeah? Okay.
Thank you, Gary.
Thank you.